Imagine two metropolitan landscapes, comparing the city of Milano with the city of Hangzhou in China. As a first glimpse of Hangzhou, we can see mostly all of us thought about nature, vegetation, the mountains, and its architecture, either if it is its historical elements or if it's new architecture, more technological and with high-rise buildings. In this comparison from 1984 to 2022, we can see the difference in the architecture with low-rise buildings and high-rise buildings, and the growth of the city, how it's now completely filled with buildings and civilization. What has stayed the same is the importance to the sacred and the holy, and how the mountain represents that sacred place with the pagodas in the tip of it, and how this area is only surrounded by the sacred and the religious. Following the idea of comparison, we can see in the map that Hangzhou is a polycentric city with its biggest historical center surrounding the Grand Canal and the West Lake. We can see the Grand Canal we know as the commercial route connecting the different areas of China and its commercial interests. So Hangzhou has its importance because of this. And now in 2022, it's become this metropolitan city with this grand expansion of civilization surrounding the river. Being this huge metropolitan city, we thought of points of interest for our project, and we, of course, focused on the Grand Canal and the West Lake because of its obvious importance, what we said before, of the communication. Also, we wanted to give importance and resemble this idea of the sacred mountain. So one is the mountain place with the forest, and the other is the mountain that it's right next to the other historical centers, not that well known as the one in the Grand Canal and the West Lake. As a potential interest point, we see the university campus that is a place of gathering and of social interaction. It's for this reason that our goal is to reinvent Hangzhou's heritage in a way so obvious that it for us was to create these different routes that show us the different parts of the city that we wanted to highlight and connect and create this chain of routes that serves as a connection of this big metropolitan area. So as you can imagine, for us, culture is the main perspective focusing exactly in this transect. As a first route, we have the one that ends up in the northern mountain, called the mountain route, that for us is a panoramic view of Hangzhou's landscape. Thus, this starts in the West Lake but goes through the wetlands, reminiscing the agriculture of China and showing its wetlands ending up in the mountain, so it's like a vegetation route. Then we have the Grand Canal route with a new face to the city's heritage because, of course, the Grand Canal it's important, like we said, but we want to give it a new point of view to this area since it was the old, important touristic historical center. Now we want to see it in another way as a way of communicating the city as becoming this heart of Hangzhou and this path of communication and connection with the other cities of China. For us, the Qiantang route is this river's brisk parkway that connects entire Hangzhou through its river sideline. It's this chain of green that goes through the riverside and takes us to different social interacting places and connection between the different parts of the city. As a bonus, we have the hills route that help us discover Hangzhou's ancient developments. And that is how we get to this master plan showing all the different routes for Hangzhou, and in its transect we can see how it goes from the lower plane to the upper plane. Going a little bit into the inner part of the city, we can see at our L scale how we have different challenges. For instance, we have to highlight the landscapes and the agricultural culture of the city, then giving the pedestrians a central role in the historical center of the city surrounding the Grand Canal, and lastly making the waterfront of the river a catalyst for the island connections. Going into the first L map, we can see the wetlands and the agricultural plains. Here we identify as main elements the mountain and a tower we situate in the south. The importance lays in the views that these main points give us. As said before, our target areas are the wetlands. Finally, we can see our route that connects through bridges to different wetlands areas, and it takes us through the path of the agriculture and the surrounding. This is how we see the success of the route with the people watching the wetlands. a first glimpse of the second L map, we can see how the Grand Canal here, it's the main element. The strategy is to bring people to the Grand Canal and its surroundings. Here we can see how our proposal is to make a few connections on top of the Grand Canal and go around its blocks to not only get to know the Grand Canal way, but the surroundings. As you can see here, they enjoy the views of the canal at the same time as the crossing bridges that allow us to enjoy the two sides of the canal itself. For third L map, we can see how it focuses on the riverside. In this case, the main element is the waterfront, and its strategy is to cross this waterfront and to get to the other side of the city. The target areas are the university and its surroundings. Lastly, our proposal consists on, again, different bridges that connect the riverfront with the land itself, and it takes us inside of the city. Here is easy to see how the idea is the bridge is to connect to this line of center of communication of the entire city. In this one, we can see how we approach the riverfront. Finally, we want to remember our goal was the different historical centers connected by a chain of parks make the city decentralized. And with our master plan, we show that we have these different routes that connect the entire city and have different elements that give importance to the city and not just only the historical centers that we knew.